All right, everybody, I hope you're having a great day today. It's Wednesday, October 20th when this video is recorded, and I'm going to talk today about the proposed legislation that is out there that would give the IRS increased information on bank accounts. But before I do that, be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel if you get a lot of value out of the content. So, today I'm going to talk about the IRS and what this legislation means to that. And right now, how it started was that the legislation would require banks to report to the IRS any accounts that had more than $600 of deposits or more than $600 of withdrawals in a given year. Now, that's pretty much every account. What was their intent behind that? My belief is that they want to increase tax compliance. They want to broaden the tax base. That means they want to tax more money in the system. And they're hoping to catch people that, let's say, maybe they're running a side hustle and they get $20,000 of sales, but they're showing $40,000 of deposits. And so they want to catch those people. And by giving that information from the banks, it makes it a little bit easier to select people for an audit. That's my guess. As for my thoughts on it, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan for the biggest reason of now when people go to sell something on Facebook Marketplace, for example, now we got to report it. Now I got to keep track of that deposit and what that was. I think it just places more burden on people to comply with an already complex tax code. And so, no, I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a fan of it. And that's the main reason why. Now, they have recently talked about moving that up to $10,000, which is better, but still a lot of people have more than that. Like they have paychecks and 1099s and stuff. So I don't know how much easier it makes it, but it's better, but we'll see. I'm not a fan still. I think it's, like I said, it's too burdensome. It is too complicated. And I just think it's gonna make a lot of people really have to track their deposits and withdrawals and like what they're doing with them. So that's my thoughts in a nutshell. Now, I do want to get back to the whole $10,000 thing. Believe it or not, banks already do this, and you'd be surprised if you go and look up the Bank Secrecy Act. And I'm going to post a snippet up here. I'll post a snippet, and basically what it is that the banks have to report to the Treasury any accounts that have more than $10,000 deposited or withdrawn in a given day. Why? Because it's meant to prevent money laundering. And so that's why that's been in place for a while now. And so that's why banks already do that. The difference is you have one's a daily limit, the new one's going to be a yearly limit. So obviously it's going to be a lot easier to hit a yearly limit versus the daily limit. But yeah, it means if you sold a car, for example, and you got $20,000 from it and you deposit that in the bank, they report that to the Treasury. That has to be reported. So to some extent, they already know some of the stuff of what you're doing to begin with. So don't be surprised about that. The other thing I want to touch on too is about audits and what can you do about this in case they pass the ruling. Well, my thought is just keep good records as best as you can. So let's talk about individuals first. Keep your W-2s, your 1099s, any documents that you receive, even like charitable deductions, anything that you are taking a tax deduction on, keep those receipts and do not lose them. That is key. You cannot lose those receipts. Save them. You can scan them and save them. That will go a long way. Keep any of those papers. That's my biggest takeaway from you. And also, like, if you're nervous about doing taxes or you're not comfortable, hire a CPA. There's no shame in it. You might pay a few $100, but a CPA can help you, or an EA. I should say EAs too, enrolled agents. They can do the same thing a CPA can as far as tax stuff. Get them to help you. Get them to file a return for you. And then plus, if they audit you, you have somebody that knows your situation that can represent you and help you, guide you through the process. That's fantastic. documentation is the key. Now, on the business side, a few more points here. Documentation is still the same. If you're going on business trips, be sure to write down the schedule, like who you met. When you go to a meal, document who was with you, what you talked about. This stuff goes a long way. If you're driving and you're recording mileage, make sure you have, maybe use an app like MileIQ or QuickBooks. Just make sure that you are logging in where you came from, where you're going, how many miles, time of day, what the business purposes was. That's what you need. That stuff goes a long way. The other thing I would tell you to do too is when you're in business, you have multiple tax returns. You might have a return with your state. You might have sales tax returns you have to file every month. You're also going to have sales reports that come from some kind of payment processor. Maybe it's, in most cases, for people with side hustles, it might be Square, Stripe, or PayPal. Look at those and make sure, do the total sales, because here's what people get burned on. If I start with the basics of, let me sum up all of my sales, and then I look at my sales reports, and the sales reports come from the payment processors. If I start there, those should match my sales tax returns. They need to. They absolutely have to match what is on my sales tax returns. And then my sales tax returns need to match any other business return or any other gross receipts tax return that I have. You want to make sure all of these match up. And then ultimately, they match the income tax return. Because here's the deal. Like your sales, you should be able to, if I show $100,000 of sales on an income tax return, I should be able to show that should be on my sales tax returns. That should also be the amount that I got on any payment processor sales reports. That's the key. So you want to make sure all of these documents match up, they line up. Because, I mean, I've worked at places before where the total monthly sales, like when they filled out, they had a gross receipts tax return, those amounts did not add up to what we reported on the income tax return. And part of that was that we filed as a corporation, but the entities filed the sales tax returns, and so that threw us off. And so that is the key. That is one way that you will get caught in an audit, is like when you don't put income that you get 1099s on, or it doesn't match a sales tax return, so on and so forth. So that is the key. It's like you ultimately, I should be able to look at your sales tax returns. I should be able to look at your any other in sales tax or gross receipts tax. I should be able to look at all of those. They should match to a sales report. They should match to your income tax return. Now, all that stuff needs to match. The same thing with like your expenses. Like I should be able to look, find your receipts, look at your books and say, hey, what do you got in here? You know, are these all expenses? Are they legitimate expenses? And they need to match up. And so those are the key things that could keep you out of trouble. The other thing too is making sure that you're reasonable with your expenses. If you have some expenses that are way out of whack this year, you can always disclose them. There's a disclosure statement form in the IRS. You can always put them in there and just state like, hey, this is why my expenses were really high. That might actually go and help prevent you from being audited should you want to do that. So again, there's another tip for you if that helps at all. But again, at the end of the day, keeping good records will help keep you straight and out of trouble. So if you got any other questions, be sure to drop them in the comments below. And I will be posting some more great content here. I'm trying to post about 2 or 3 videos a week. So if you got ideas for content, you can always let me know in the comments, or you can message me on Instagram at mdeepcpa. You guys all have a great day.